right, here we go. Charlie right now is out. I think at a doctor's appointment, so he'll be hopping back in just a second. Let's get some music going, and then I'll kick us off and get going. Here we go. Got our backing track going. Let me pull the music down a bit. Okay, so we got a few things that we're looking to accomplish today on the Get Shipped Done show. One that we're still pushing forward on is Charlie is working on getting Autogen set up. When he comes back on, we might work on that a bit. We're going to be running a bit of an experiment. This whole show is an experiment of us trying to figure out how we can bring together this, like live streaming and working out loud, working live. We're going to see if we could do this as a bit of almost like co-working live. So it may be less show focused, maybe less specific. I don't know. We're still figuring this out as we go. What I'm needing to work on is building out my growth engine for my business and thinking through that. So part of that for me is going to be, thinking through and deciding, how I position my show, how I position things. I tend to like to invite people on to a show as a way to connect, to network, and then from that relationship building, see if there's any opportunities from there as well. So I need to think through that a bit. But that's what we're going to be working on today. So starting into mine, really the solution that I'm building out is geared toward SaaS companies. So let me go ahead and pull some stuff up. And then Meryl, if any comments come in or any questions come in, can you do me a favor? I probably won't see. Well, here, let me see. I wonder if I could pop out the private chat. Doesn't look like I can. So if you see any comments come in or anything like that, Meryl, are you able to see the comments? Like, do you see the comments tab? Yes. Okay, cool. So if you see any comments come in, shoot me a message in WhatsApp. I'm more likely to see it there. And then that way I know to deal with it. But if anybody has any questions or whatnot, part of the point of doing this live is also that I'm able to interact with people. We don't always get a ton of interaction. That's fine. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. Okay. So, here, let me go ahead and throw this up. Working on, what did I call this thing? Tracking down the name of this document so I can throw a banner up here. Then here. Yeah, it is. Let me move this. I see. Let me see. Scroll. There we go. Okay. So let me present my screen. All right, so what I'm doing, I'm grabbing some of the avatar documentation I've put together. And I'm throwing it into a dedicated project here where I'm going to be able to start working on some of these things. need. Let's do this. Find some of these things. Need. Grab this. me say what's true. Maybe focus less on the state specific aspects, only make it a subset. All right, I'll let that continue. I'll just do this in Obsidian.
Hey,
Hello.
what you working on?
Give me a second. Okay, so the overarching process here is that I'm working to define the positioning for the podcast growth engine. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling through. I'm starting a new project in Claude where I'm pulling through kind of a lot of this context that it's available. Really, this is what I'm working toward, but I'm kind of realizing I don't have my tool set up well for that right now. I don't have the context to give it to say here's all the understanding that you need to do to be able to help me think through this, right? So so that's turned into me working on that. So part of what I'm doing is I'm updating a few things. So here's my how you work with me descriptor. Part of what I needed to do on this is I needed to remove the specifics about pricing. I'm going to be shifting, I'm going to know what my target hourly looks like. But I'm not going to be defining it for people that way is what I'm moving toward. So I think that's probably the right way to do it. It gives me more adjustability in trying to set my pricing based on value rather than based on my hourly. But I could sort of determine for myself, am I going to be making enough on the hourly to have this meet my goals? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't know, that may or may not be the right way to do it for me, because there's aspects of that potentially convolutes parts of this, but I don't know. I think it's actually easier for people to understand. Here's the outcome that you want, and here's what I'm going to charge in order to get you it, right?
Right.
Than it is to say, here's the outcome you want, and I have no idea what it'll cost, but here's what my time costs on the path to get it. One of those is a much more compelling way of framing that. So I feel like me knowing what my hourly needs to be and sort of thinking through what the process looks like, as long as people are willing to work with me in this way, which is going to be necessary. If people are willing to work with me in this way, then the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. If people are willing to work with me this way, if I've done a good job figuring out the potential value and positioning the price of the project in light of the value, then I can quickly do the math to figure out am I making enough on the hourly. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so, all right. And then I'm working on updating a couple of things in here. So let me do this. Let me get this one added in here. My work. Okay. So I got my avatar information in here. I've got the what is the system? I've got that description in here. I've got how I work. I'm trying to update the personal brand topics to not lean in too much on the real estate.
Yeah.
So let me go back. Let me go back here.
Because you've got a good profile of SaaS growth people.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the Grok thread, right?
Right. Strive to keep as much nature. can I edit this? I think we want to hear from you. What is this? Find the domains mastery. No, to get rid of the other stuff. I did. Okay, and in here, transformations, exploration. Here we go. So in the past, I've actually done an exercise where I sat down and I worked through but where I went through and worked on wait a second. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I want to copy this. Yeah, I want to come back to this, but I want to do something first. I want to get these in here, and I want to say, please look through these transformations and extract the key stories, transformations that I've been a part of that are relevant to the Fusion Fellowship Reactor. So I went through and I did an exercise of just thinking through all the ways that I've helped people. I did this a while back, and I literally just sat down and started talking into AI about these are all the things that I can remember. And so I know in here there are some relevant ideas and case studies for me to pull from to say, hey, if I'm going to build out what specifically have I done that I could lean on to say how I've helped. I can pull from these. Okay.
And so you're trying to figure out all that info?
Yeah, so I can add it as context for its reference off of. Give it to me as an artifact and really make sure there's enough context to convey how it connects back to the points of the Fusion Fellowship Reactor. Almost look at them as stories or ideas that I can pull from as many case studies show points of how I do this work I've done in the past. All need to be represented equally. It's more important to lean on the points of fusion, fellowship, reactor for what we're extracting. I didn't turn on the thinking mode for this. I should have done that.
It's such a game changer, the thinking mode.
Yep.
I'm working on my new landing page.
Nice. With the same original context, transformations, etc., to get the result closer to what I'm looking for. One thing to note, I want to make sure that all stories relevant to a specific of the fusion fellowship reactor are mentioned, and I'd rather go person by person, but note for parts of the reactor that their story is relevant to. Give me the optimized prompt so I can redo this in a new thread. I'm looking to go in a new thread so I can turn on the thinking, but I still want it to learn from what we just did. So I'm asking it to give me the improved prompt.
Gotcha.
All right, this time I'm going to turn on the extended thinking. Now I can throw those in there. All right, now it's thinking about it. I decided to throw up super productive on the side here, just that as I'm not talking, it's at least clear what I'm working on. Clearer, at least. All right, this is perfect. gonna throw this into my project. I'm also gonna download this so I have it.
Can you share your screen so we can see it?
I'm not sharing my screen?
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh. Yeah, if you ever notice I'm not sharing my screen, feel free to tell me. I thought I was sharing my screen. I think I had turned it on, and then maybe it did one of those things where it broke.
Could be. Done broke. There you are.
There we go. Okay. Okay, so now I need... This looks a lot better. Look at these domains of mastery. So we've talked about how I think about a personal brand, right? Can you hear me? Did I lose you? Oh, you're muted.
Oh,
you must be.
I was muted. Okay, yes, I'm pretty sure we've talked about a lot.
So the basic idea is that I sort of consider a personal brand three different aspects. One is my unique approach. This is the way that I do things, right? It's part of, like, all things being equal, if somebody knew exactly what I know and happened to have the same life experiences as me, they may still not do things the way that I do them. I mean, they might if they literally had exactly the same experiences. But if somebody lived a similar life, they're still not me, right?
Right.
And so these are the things that are like, no matter what I do, these probably come into play into it. Okay, so this is the unique way that I do things. And for me, there's empathetic communication, right? Where, like, I'm good at putting myself into somebody else's shoes and understanding it from their perspective. People tell me that I tend to be good at tech simplification, of taking complex things and putting them into a framework where people understand how they work, why they work, where they matter, all that sort of thing. I'm also able to learn quickly and adapt quickly. And so anyway, that's been a useful thing. Holistic conversations. This kind of speaks to one of the things that you've pointed out as one of my strengths, where when people come to me and talk to me, like, no matter what they want to talk about, I bring and I'm armed with really a whole view of business, and not just the one silo that they maybe have a question about, right? So when I give recommendations, it's from that holistic point of view. Authentic interest. I actually care about people, and I care about what they're doing. That tends to play into what
You're at least good at faking that.
And what's interesting is I'm not faking it. I am actually interested in the people that I talk to. That's part of why it works well. Strategic networking. So knowing how to connect with people, being able to adapt my proven frameworks into where they need to change for other people. And then what I call my holistic business ethos. So like, I do care about the ethics of what I'm doing. I care about the people involved in the process. I have a belief of abundance, and I do value-driven choices. So, like aligning my business decisions with my values themselves. Like, I'm not going to lie to people to just make a sale, and I really have to, if I'm going to introduce scarcity into something, I really do. For me to feel good about it, I have to actually figure out how this is really real scarcity, and that I actually care about. Like I have to do that work first for me to be able to even offer something scarcity based. And then this instructional design being part of how I do things too. So like tailoring how to teach things in an optimal way, and how to guide people through the process. Like that's a unique mix of kind of how I do things. So that's like, none of those are really specifically outcomes that people want. They're just like part of the mix of how I uniquely do things, right? But then we get into the domains of mastery, and domains of mastery are a lot more like based on the outcomes that people want. And it's like these are the areas of expertise where I have specific results, right? So this is listing out kind of those ideas. Before, my domains of mastery were really real estate specific in terms of how they were worded. And while that's true, it's not useful for me in this path that I'm going down. And so I'm reworking it to be able to emphasize more the elements that I need it to, where it's like, what parts of these components can I pull out to emphasize more of how my mastery applies to these other areas where I'm going, rather than just where I've been. So how can I leverage where I've been to help me on where I'm going, even if it's not exactly in alignment? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so this is a lot better than it was before, because it was really real estate focused before. It still has, like, I don't need to shy away from that. I have experience in the real estate world,
right.
But I want to make sure that like AI isn't going to lean too much on the real estate stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and then so that's what domains of mastery is, and then the final one is personal interest. So this is all about, like, this makes zero difference for how I do things or what I accomplish. This is literally just like the flavor that makes me a human, makes me interesting, makes me unique. These are the aspects where it's like, if I'm going to share a story, you know, here's a good example. I am never going to share a story that has to do with like some funny adventure that happened while I was drinking, because that's just not who I am, right? And it never has been. So it's not going to be part of that. But I will share stories that have to do with like going to midnight showings of Star Wars and like lessons that I've learned through video games, right? Like I will share stories that are like that, because that's part of who I am. And so it doesn't make a difference on the end result, but it's part of how, like, it's part of that makeup of my personality. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And
so, you know, we've gone through a number of things where I've documented some of these things, I've thought about some of these things, and then putting them into one cohesive thing lets me give AI the context that's necessary. Anyway, so this one's like perfect. I don't remember, did I get it? Let me copy it to the project. Let me download it. And then let's see. This one feels a lot better for what I was looking for that. I think, yeah, that's the one that I just added. Let me remove this one. That was the old one. Okay, so now I've got the personal brand topics. Now I want to do I have like short okay, here's my email writing style. Yeah, perfect. Let's get that in there too. Reveal in Finder. Okay, and what I'm still missing is I'm missing like Zach Hammer is. I've had like I have like these things that I've used in the past that are like the short about me's. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I haven't named them well apparently because I'm struggling to find them. There's writing style. Old emailing is dead. Let's see. There we go. This one's real estate growth hackers. Let's see. Maybe I called it context. Do I have it in here somewhere? Okay, transformations. We're looking for. No. Summary. Maybe I have it as my bio. That's all right. Let's try this. That looks pretty good. All right, let's come up here. New note in there. Raising up.
How will you know when you're finished with this?
So this portion, this portion of this is done now. The overarching project. Perfect. Okay, and did I get this added into the project? Copy to project. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I got that. So now what I want to do is here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna talk into AI. Actually, here I'm gonna use Mac Whisper for this because I don't know how long it's gonna take me. A second. Let me save this real quick. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Sometimes the voice dictation cuts out too quick.
Gotcha.
So for this one, I'm going to work with AI to get ideas on this. Is my plan. So I'm gonna brain dump into a recording what my goal is, what the thoughts are. It now has all the context that I more so trust, like kind of how to think about this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. I'm going to use the local. I'm going to do new recording, and this is SaaS podcast positioning. Brain dump. Okay, so what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to figure out how to adjust my current podcast strategy, which has historically it's kind of shifted over the years. So it started very real estate focused, helping real estate agents, real estate teams, real estate brokers, and brokerages, and also somewhat in the lender and title space and some of that, where it was kind of a real estate focused zone. Through that, I've also had lots of real estate SaaS companies on talking about their products and that sort of thing. And I've shifted where I haven't been as focused on real estate specifically. I've been talking more about how I'm leveraging AI, kind of the systems that help, where it's more become about what I've been doing in general, but still somewhat geared toward and relevant to to my current audience. What I'm looking to do is I'm looking to I don't necessarily need to change anything about the podcast itself in terms of the name or anything like that, but I need to define the positioning for how it would be relevant for my target audience now, where I want the guests of the show to be people that potentially are a good fit for my products and services, but where there's still enough value in the process, for them to come on. So my audience, so ways that I've thought about this in the past, there's kind of the model of building an audience where my audience is this group's customers, right? I don't think that's going to be a good fit right now. It's at least not something that I have like strongly to go after. Maybe I do. I don't know. But so there's that, and then the other one is where the easiest way to make something like this work is where the audience is essentially the guests, right? So it's almost like an asynchronous mastermind is kind of the idea, where people like if I bring somebody on as a guest, the people who listen would be other people, other opportunities. So I need to think through really what are the compelling reasons that somebody comes on this show, how to position it, how to talk to them about it, so that if I'm talking to a potential, SaaS founder, how do I position this show, given that I need to be a little bit creative? It's not my audience likely isn't exactly going to be a good fit for their product or service. It might be ideas that I have for how it might be, like how I might be able to make this a good fit. A big part of my method is around connections and getting people connections. So like there could be an angle around that, where this is a great opportunity to get exposure to other potential JV partners, connections to network with, etc. So being part of the show kind of gets them into that world and gets them in front of my audience of other people that might be a good fit. So there's an angle there. The other angle is potentially like what we do with the show after the fact, of how we can help people leverage it to get in front of their audience. Actually, by the way, Charlie, that's potentially if we could figure out if we could figure out a good, easy to implement strategy where it's like after the show goes live, we have a subset of referrals while you sleep as a concept, where it's like, how do we amplify this to their audience? And
I love that.
Maybe do a test run of referrals while you sleep, but for them on their behalf. We need to think about what that would look like, but I think that would be a really good fit, where it's like essentially the play there would be we created the content. This content will make you look like a smart expert. Now let's get that content in front of your audience, right? Like that could be part of what we think about how we offer it. Those are some of the ideas that come to mind. My goal here is to get clear on sort of the how do I position this? How do I present it? How do I sell it in a compelling way to these people? And what I want is I want ideas back for how to think about it, how I talk about the show concept, maybe what I do strategically. Again, and my goal is that I be able to use this show as a way to have an easy opportunity to connect with my ideal target market in a way where we get to build a relationship, but we're also still doing something useful and valuable for them in the process, and in a way that ultimately leads to and creates opportunities for the rest of my products and services for the people that it's a good fit for. Charlie, is there anything, and I might need to repeat what you're saying because I'm only pulling this off my microphone, but is there anything that comes to mind for you, that just other thoughts to get into the context with AI?
I think you covered it.
All right, perfect. Transcribe recording. Burrito juice on me. Boom roasted. Don't tell me my business super productive. All right. Podcast repositioning. Real estate focused podcast to one that better serve. You need a compelling value proposition. Analyst, platform where there's an exclusive community of SaaS innovators and similar growth strategies. Emphasize potential strategic value. Fellowship effect where appearing on the show connects them to your network. What do you think? What do you think about for sake of the outcomes here? I think number 1 and number 2 feel likely to me. I don't know if 3. I don't know. I don't feel like it's clearly.
Let's see.
Clearly positioned.
Professionally produced authority content.
And I may not word it this way, but more just the concept, like the concepts of like, if we were going to clearly define what do you get out of this?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, what do they want? They want to be able to grow. I think it'd be all around number one. Like they get content that they can reuse. They can what else? I mean, I feel like, that's really what it is. That's the offer. Like, why do people want to get on podcasts? Those are the reasons,
Yeah, I think
that's my thought. Is there more that you put in there, or what? So this is more your system. I don't know. What are the good things to put in there?
So in terms of like the outcomes from podcasting, you get a, and here, let me record this so that we can leverage it if needed. Save it. And record app audio, Chris microphone. All right, and this should get your audio too. So yeah, talking through this, like here are some of the key outcomes that happen from my process, at least. So one is that like when somebody comes on with me,
yeah,
they aren't just coming on and talking like normal. I work with people to help them dial in their message so that when we do our show together, I'm really setting them up to look like a rock star. They're going to convey value. They're going to create content that isn't just, regurgitating features. Like we essentially do like a mini webinar where people I help coach people through that process of really making sure that we're gonna deliver something actionable, something that creates value, something that very naturally leads to, if somebody wants this result, they're gonna want your product, right? So there's that. That's how I typically produce this kind of thing. So it's like a good mock example of what it's like to create some of this other content with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So I often do that. I feel like that position, like, I don't know if this positioning, if my goal is that the audience is the guests, then I might need to do that differently, right? Where what they're talking about might be more of the peer-to-peer stuff rather than the outcome that they want. And maybe I don't know, help me think through that aspect of say you wanted to bring people on, well, I don't know. Okay, so thinking through this out loud, it's like at the minimum, they're gonna get a great piece of content that they could leverage, literally like leverage in their marketing. They'd be proud to put it in front of their customers, send it out to their email list, that sort of thing, right? Like I'm gonna help take one of the marketing things off their plate. They're gonna end up with some really great content. That, however, for me, doesn't necessarily make it make sense to be a good fit to send out to my audience. So I need to figure out where would the alignment of where it makes sense to send out to my audience be. Does that make sense? Like if I'm talking to a SaaS company that, say, helps hairdressers get more people in their seat, like the way that I'm going to advise them on content the way that I'm going to advise them on content is going to be to speak to the hairdresser, right?
Right.
And yet that's not going to make sense for my audience, right?
Right.
So kind of in this vein of being adaptable, I would need to think through. I would either need to think through how the content maybe I structure it where we do two, where like one of them is really specifically featured toward like just helping them create content for their audience, and then separately we do the more behind the scenes, like tell me about what you're doing right now that's working, right? Like how are you growing? What have you figured out that's working well? What tips could you share with our community, right?
Right.
And it's like that content wouldn't be focused on something that they'd put in front of their market. That content would be more focused on potential opportunities and networking and that sort of thing. But I don't think they could reliably be the same content though. Does that make sense to you? Like the only
that content for your people and content for their people.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't think the only way that I could see that it could reliably be good for both is if their audience is the same as my target market. Right? Like or at least somewhat similar, right? Like where they're talking about like they're a SaaS that's more of a general business principles rather than like a really specific niche, right?
Well, I mean, the goal of yours, right, is to like, I mean, it's not really to grow your audience. This isn't really to grow your audience through this as much as to make them look awesome.
Right. But there's kind of like an underlying psychology here that I've just known to be true. And let me know if you think I'm wrong, but most typically, if I came to somebody and said, hey, I want to create an episode for you that does me no good but helps you promote your audience, do you want to do that? The resistance that I'm going to get is that feels too good to be true. And so I'm just not going to do it. Whereas if I say, hey, here's this thing that I want you to do that you clearly understand why it's selfishly good for me, and yet it's still good for you. When you approach something that way, people are a lot more likely to say, oh yeah, cool. Like, yeah, let's do it. But if people can't see the what's in it for you, they have a hard time trusting it.
Right.
Does that make sense? And so you're right. I don't specifically care about growing my audience, but I need what I'm proposing to people to fit that bill of they could see how them doing that content would help me while it helps them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, what's the most honest thing then? It's I mean, you don't really care for it to be your audience.
Right.
How can you tell them, like, hey, this is how I meet really cool people? And, this is something that I've developed. I don't know. I mean, like, how can you be just really honest about it?
Yeah, and I think there's probably two ways. I think potentially there might be enough of like I might be able to get enough of just the people kind of having an ego in it, where I might be able to say, hey, I'd love to bring you on as an expert. We have a community of people that are doing awesome things in the SaaS world. And I'd love for you to be able to share some tips with our community. Would you like to come on? Or it's like I make it very clear, because here's the other thing. It's not that I don't care about it being good for my audience, because ultimately I always want to be leveraged if I can, right? And so I'd love the work that I do for this to also be the work that's necessary for me to nurture my list, right? For me to have another opportunity where I'm getting in front of them and I have another touch point. So my ideal outcome would be that it's not 100% just for them, that I want it to be mutually beneficial. That being said, so it's like, I would like it to do that. That being said, I would be willing to say, hey, let's create something for you specifically. But I think it would need to be separate. I think it would need to be, I think what I would do is I'd potentially say, hey, this was great. And if you want, one of the things that I do is that I help people produce content that really fits their audience. You want to book another time where we record some content together specifically for you to put out to your list? I wouldn't mind pitching that after, I don't know. Does that make sense? And it doesn't even have to be a paid thing. It could just be another way to further the relationship. But
I mean, this is good. You got to solve this for your founders too. I think if you have to do 2 podcasts, I don't think that's a good solution. I think you got to figure out where it's one. You got the pre-meeting, you got the podcast, and then you got the final meeting. I think that's the way it has to be.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, and then I think the recording another podcast thing would, yeah, I think you're right. It probably would just need to be like if I was going to offer that, it probably does need to be pitched as a service, right? Where it's like,
right.
Hey, if you'd like to, this is something that we could do, and here's what it costs, right? And I don't know if it makes sense to do that, but I think you're right. I think that's where it would have to sit in the zone.
I mean, this is still, what do you get out of it? You get to talk to, you like these people.
Right.
You get to talk to them. What do they get out of it? They get authority content.
Right.
This is how you meet. This is your proven way. This is how you get to meet potential, clients and people like your clients,
Right. Yeah. And in terms of give me a SaaS that you've met with or that you know of that isn't in the zone or the ballpark that I'm normally familiar with. Right. So not in the real estate world, something completely different. You're more connected in that world. Tell me one that you're familiar with.
So probably my buddy Justin.
Okay. What does Justin do?
They have a service that automates text reminders for businesses.
Automates text reminders for businesses. Okay. And so them leveraging this process, text reminders for businesses. So coming up with the right, if they wanted to deploy this podcast specific process, what they would want to do is they'd want to figure out who are define businesses more. So text reminders for businesses. So is this appointment specific or what is it?
Yeah. Appointments mainly. Yeah. Appointment reminders.
So
and so, they've got individuals, salons all the way up to, they've got a big franchise that's got a lot of people that's using them.
Right.
And, so my guess, would be, that's always my idea. It's kind of the B&I idea that we've talked about, who are your potential, big partners.
Right. And that's always who it's ideal to try and establish relationships with, is who are the connectors, who are the people who their audience is your customers, if that makes sense. So the subject matter for a text reminder specific show, or business, I would probably think through. So if we want our people to, if we want our people to be in alignment, it's probably like maybe around follow-up is what the content itself is about, right? Where that's where we start talking about like what are the principles of good follow-up. Needs to be relevant, consistent, easy to do, right? Like, so I'd go a little bit wider than what they do, but the people who care about that would be right for that. I would probably have, you know, my like B tier guest for that type of show would be the actual businesses themselves that could use the service, right? Where you could bring them on to talk about you know, what are the aspects that they've learned about for follow-up that make a difference for them. I think that would work well. And then the A and S tiers would be like the people who could speak intelligently to follow up, but are in a non-competing business that like the segment, there's overlap in the segment. So like a company that like maybe like coaches or other software companies that have to do with either the same idea but a different part of the stack. So like maybe they deal more with email follow-up or like they're coaching around like how you follow up to get the sale on the phone or via DMs, that sort of thing, where it's not just a reminder. So you could do content and bring those people on. And so the audience would be people interested in follow-up, which would have the target market making sense, right? The guests that you target, yeah, I mean, it would still be in a similar vein, right? Where it's the guests that they're bringing on aren't specifically like, you know, for reminders. Yeah, I mean, hairdressers on this one would make sense too, right? Like you got an appointment coming up,
right?
You know, so like you're not doing a podcast that specifically gets them customers. You're more so setting them up as an authority, right? And right. Yeah, I think for sake of what it does, there's still a relevant audience. I think there's still enough meat on the bone for people seeing that as something that they want to do, because like you don't have to be, yeah. So I think it does make sense. I think it does make sense from that vein, where like I think there is enough value there that people want to come on, want to be seen as an expert, even if it's not going out to their exact target market. Like they might share it, say, hey, we were recently honored to be featured here, that sort of thing. And they use it as like the way that they could leverage it would be to use it as an authority play, for sake of their social media, their email, that sort of thing. And there will be times, it's just not going to be reliable, where it's also like their target market is the same person, right? Like, where they have a product where it makes sense both from the authority play, but also people specifically need what they have, right? In that audience. So like a good example of this is what was the name of the business from the BNI meeting that does the VA stuff?
Bet Us.
Bet Us, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that to me could be a good example, kind of in this vein, where it's useful for the authority play, but the audience also specifically might need the services, right?
Right.
And and this was going back more toward my vein. It's not exactly the ideal fit. It's not a SaaS company, but I don't know. You get what I mean, though. Where like the thing that they're offering is both relevant to the audience, also good for authority play, also good for networking, right? So it kind of covers all of those boats. But I think it'll be okay that it's not reliable for everybody. Does that feel true to you?
I still don't think it needs to be relevant to your audience. I could be off, but I still don't, because that just makes it so much more complicated. Even for them to try to implement this strategy, right?
Right. Yeah, but I think maybe part of what you're missing on this is it doesn't need to, for sake of it being practical, but this is a thing that takes me a ton of time. And so what I've found, I mean, just in terms of running this kind of strategy, a lot of time is devoted to making this happen. So if this doesn't also solve my marketing needs to my audience, then it's drastically less leveraged. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, it makes it so that I could be focused on something that checks the boxes that I know I need to be doing as well. I need to be producing content that sets me up as an authority and an expert to my audience. And I need to, and I want to use strategies that also help me connect with other audiences. So yeah, I think the play of say, like, for many of these people, come on, get seen as an expert. There's some networking opportunities. There's some things like that. I think for many people, I think that will work. I think, especially in this zone, like, I mean, right now, realistically, I mean, you let me know if somebody reached out to you and their audience was other SaaS companies specifically, you would find that relevant. Or I mean, you would still potentially find that worthwhile to hop on and create the content, right?
I mean, I'm hopping on call. I mean, like, I view it as a sales call, right?
Right.
Like, I am, like, with your brandy system, it's all creating good content.
Right.
So, I mean, I just view these as like it's a simpler way to create content. And for you, I mean, kind of the back end with this is, you can say, hey, and if you need to turn this into marketing, I've got brandy.
Right.
I don't think you agree with me. That's okay. But I feel it's just, for me, it's jumping through too many hoops. Not just like you can figure it out, but I think it's going to make it harder for the people that hire you for the service to figure it out.
Well, and don't forget, like, this one isn't the main thing. This one isn't the main thing that I'm typically like pitching or positioning. The podcasting as marketing, like that's it's a subset. It's a subset of it, right? Like, it's hey, if you're struggling to find partnerships, this is a good way to build those relationships and find those partnerships, right?
Yeah.
But for many of these people, like, this is part of what I found. Many of these people already have the partnerships. Like, they already have the relationships. They already have the people that are in similar spaces. At least with the people that I've worked with so far, where it's like they already top of mind know a handful of people that they could, like, because this doesn't take a massive network. We're talking, you have like 3 or 4 partners that are willing to do a webinar with you. You got the opportunity to do a webinar every month with a different person on their perspective each quarter, right? So they're doing one a quarter, but you're doing one a month, and that only takes three partners, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a big problem to solve, but it can be. I mean, it can be a useful mechanism for the right fit and the right people. And I think that would end up being part of it. It's like through the process, it's not the core component of how you do it. It's like a part of how like a strategy that could be deployed to build those relationships. I think over time it would, yeah, I don't know. Probably part of what I need to do on that end to formalize that is to have more at bats where I'm seeing like, this would be perfect for you and this is why. Because it becomes more clear in the scenario. Like I know for you, it is perfect for you to do, you know, top lenders in America as your podcast. And
right.
And like part of the setup and the reasoning is like what your audience, your core audience that you're targeting, there's at least reasons like it may not be content that is very specifically like exactly geared for them. Yeah. I don't know. How do you do those interviews? What do those sound like?
I mean, so for me, it's all about just them. And so I've got a series of questions on, you know, hey, you know, why did you get into the business? Is there a customer that comes to mind that just makes you smile? Tell me about them. Why are you still in the business? Like, you know, business isn't easy. You know, it's kind of the surfboard method. You know, like I've got a series of questions, but I really just try to have the conversation catch and then, you know, ride the wave, so to speak.
Right.
But that works. Yeah, like that's, so I've got a series of questions that I just ask. And I'm looking for what am I curious about? And it's all based on like, you know, it's similar to what we know. You know, it's why are they in the business? What do they do unique? Why do they still love it? And that works really well for me.
And do you think it's content that other lenders, loan officers would find valuable?
You know, I've never even thought about it. Maybe not necessarily. Now I use your brandy idea, and so I convert it into content. And that's helpful, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right. That makes sense. And do you right now, and maybe this is part of the disconnect, because like this is something that I just know that I always want to be solving. I know that I need a system where I'm building a list and building influence with that list over time, right? Like I know that I want that, and I want to be doing that, and leveraging the work that I'm doing, the content that I'm creating anyway to do that tends to be helpful. And I know for me, I may not always get this, but I would rather somebody who spends an hour listening to me on a podcast than somebody who skims a social post. Right? Like I would rather one over the other. So whenever possible, I want to have the opportunity that the content that I put in front of somebody invites them into that amplification, right? So my typical way that I look to do this is, yes, I want the short form stuff coming out, but really I want it to ultimately be part of a flow where like I'm giving people the way to set their own speed depending on how involved they are. And if somebody found something interesting, I would want them to be able to watch a video about it, right? Because I'm gonna build my connection with them more in the video than I will just through the article. Or the short form post. So anyway, my question for you on that right now, referrals while you sleep potentially takes care of this for you, right? Where you're like, how on the content that you're doing, how does it get deployed out so that you're building the relationship with these people for you? What what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the concepts of brandy. Um, I've just actually been just taking the shorts. I haven't even done the long videos in a really long time.
Right.
But I've just been taking the shorts and uh, posting it, and I post it daily, and I run it to my warm list, like that, and that works really well.
And your warm list, does your warm list have the lenders in it too?
It does, yeah.
Just by nature of what you're doing. Are you even doing any separate content that's very specifically the real estate focused stuff?
No, I'm completely brandy.
You're well, I mean, so it's all like the lender content.
Well, lender, I mean, I do talk to realtors on Tuesdays, and
Right.
So like, I mean, builders. I mean, kind of all my conversations are potentially really useful. So I use all of those. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I think yours is such an interesting approach. What does somebody need to budget, do you think, for it to be effective for the warm list?
I mean, $3 a day is great. You could probably, do a cheaper version that
Right.
doesn't specifically target the display, all the other websites.
Right.
But I mean, $3 a day should cover, we've seen up to 20 grand or 20,000, customer audience.
Right.
You get more than that, you can do 5 or 6, but $3 a day is saturating. It's pretty good.
That makes sense. So $3 a day, that's 3 times 30. So about $100 a month in ad spend.
Yeah.
And then right now for you guys, so you post daily? Does everything just get added into a bucket, or how do you set the budget compared to what you're posting? So you're posting daily. So 30 posts. Do all 30 posts get ad spend behind them, and how do you guys think about that?
Yeah. Right now we're just doing it that way, where 30 posts, and we have the ads run for. And what we've tried different things, but we've done it a few different ways. Sometimes we'll just run each one. We'll have like a month campaign, and we'll just stop last week's and then run this week's. Or sometimes we'll just pick like kind of the top 10 that from last month and just run those.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, part of what I'm trying to think through here is like the implications of building out the follow-up more with the referrals while you sleep concept and system, rather than like the emails to the list and that sort of portion, and what difference that makes. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to think about more. But yeah, I think for sake of, I don't know, I need to think through it. So essentially there's sort of two options, right? One option is that I help them create content for their list or their audience, and then the other option is that I help them create content for my list and my audience, right? And I know how to do either. The question is ultimately which one gets me the most yeses, right?
Right.
And ideally, I'd rather the one that creates content for my audience. That's probably what I would start with. Because if that one works, then that helps me more than just creating content for them, I think. Counterpoint to that would be, it's not just yeses to the content, it's also yeses to the product and service. And there might be something to be said that I might get more yeses to how I can help them if there's a little bit more clarity around how, like, what it's like to work with me to clarify your content. Okay, so I have a couple different options that I could pursue there. And really it's I would be at the stage of I need to test them. That's kind of the key outcome to me. And I think for sake of a get started, I'm more naturally in alignment with how can I do content that does something for me and does something for you, and not just do the content that does something for you and it's just a one-off sale. Like, I'd rather create an asset that I could leverage. So yeah. And so with that, the things that they get out of it, they get the content that makes them look like a rock star. It's going to be focused more around their industry expertise rather than specifically being content for their audience. Get some, there's opportunity of exposure to my audience of people who could make for good JV opportunities. I think those are really the key outcomes.
I like that.
If I did it where it's focused on them and their audience, then outcomes would be they still get to look like an expert, but I don't get to leverage it as readily. They get to look like an expert. It would be content that they'd put out to their audience. It wouldn't necessarily help them with getting connected into my referral network, aside from me being able to make direct connections. So there might be opportunity there, but it's a little bit less it just happens, and a little bit more I would have to do a process.
Right.
And there's a potential benefit or outcome of it more clearly shows some of like the way that I work to clarify content.
Makes sense.
Yeah. That'll make sense to me. I think I will probably start with the vein of it being good content for my audience too, and see how things go. If I need to, you're right that there is value, there is positioning in just doing it as like, come on and do it this way. But I'm more in alignment with how do we both get something out of this? I have a gut feeling that it's gonna be more likely that people understand that, rather than needing to explain how me doing something for them is normal. Does that make sense?
I mean, this is the process you're selling though. And I think it's easy to say, like, I interview SaaS founders, and like, if that's what you do, I mean, I think it makes sense. Like, if that's what you do, it makes sense how it helps you, because that's what you do.
Yeah, but you're right that it makes sense. But what I mean is, long term, in the process of creating an outreach around this, it's best if the thing makes sense without explanation. Does that make sense? Like as a for instance, so one of the projects that I run here, the Harlan Insider, the more that I explained the value of what they get out of the process, and the more like I tried to deal with how easy it is and all that, the worse my responses were. When all I said was, hey, like, when I took on the mode of like, I'm a local newspaper, I'm working on a story, I'd like to feature you, are you interested? Where it's like, it's stacking things that they're used to. Of, I understand what a newspaper is. I understand this idea of somebody working on a story. They want to feature me. I feel like this is an opportunity. It's nothing about that is confusing, if that makes sense. Like it all stacks up into a pretty natural, like they feel like they get it.
Right.
And so you're right that the process of, hey, I feature people and get this, like that's true, but that's harder to understand. It's not a thing that people are used to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think in the outreach, if I pitch it that way, position it that way, I feel like I'm going to get even less people understanding it and less people moving forward than if I just say, hey, I interview experts for my audience of people I'd love to feature. You seem really smart, and I think it'd be great content for my audience. I think people are a lot more likely to at least say, I get what you're doing. That sounds good, right? Even if it's not the perfect fit for their audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's the route that I'll try. To start. I don't know if there's like 3 outcomes from it or not, but all right, let me take this recording and throw it in and see how that helps refine the overall offering. All right, well, that's transcribing. You said you're working on your landing page. What do you got going on your landing page?
I've almost got it. I'm using Vercel V0 to generate it, and it looks pretty cool. It's been pretty tough to. Yeah, I'll share it. It's cool because I'm not a designer at all, and It's gotten pretty close to being really cool. Let's see if I can present it here. Share screen. See if this works. It did not work, did it?
It just started. There we go.
Nice. So this was with V0.
Okay.
And I've now used ChatGPT. I have a little image there. And as not being a designer,
it looks good.
Looks pretty good. This is supposed to go from 0 to 1 to 150. But it's got this little slider.
Scroll up. That one's like a calculator, right?
Yeah. So that's a calculator.
What's the heading? What's the heading on the calculator? ROI calculator. See your potential return. Transactions, revenue, number of contacts, average commission, annual transaction rate. What's annual transaction rate?
So that's based on the 15% households have a transaction annually. So that's a big part of this, the 230 law. 15% of households have a real estate transaction annually. That's directionally correct. There's 15 transactions for every 100 people locally.
What you could potentially do is you could put that in a term that you like in terms of the calculator, you could put that in a term that they would understand more readily, which would be the turnover rate. Because that is actually where the 15% comes from. Is the idea is that it's a 10% turnover rate annually in most markets. And so if it's a 10% of the total inventory selling, then that means that there's a sell side and a buy side. And so the 15% comes from saying, not every transaction stays within the market. So you will have people who sell and then buy in a different market. So if you're, so when you're looking at your numbers, the 15% is essentially based on 10% turnover. So if you had somebody factor, if you had, like, somebody could plug in their turnover rate, and then from that, you could very, very readily and accurately derive that number for you of, the expected transactions from your own, the expected transactions from your own list based on your local market's turnover rate. And there might be value in, like, how to describe it. I don't know if that's a thing that would matter or not, but there might be value in you being able to say, hey, we figured out how to estimate the number of transactions that are present in your list based on this key metric. Plug in your area's annual turnover rate, and from that we'll be able to estimate the number of your transaction percentage for your list. Right? You might even give that metric a name that sounds interesting. But anyway, that's an idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if that matters or not. Practically, it's the same thing here. The only reason why I bring it up is somebody might look at that and it's on a slider, which makes me feel like it's something that I should be able to adjust. But I don't know how to adjust it based on the current wording, right? But if you told me it was based on the turnover rate, then I would at least know, like, I could look that up. I could say, oh, what's the turnover rate in this area? And it would then be able to factor that number for me, which makes me feel like the number that I'm looking at is real. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's also, in terms of a sales process, it's also something that if you could get really good buy-in from somebody of being able to say, hey, what's your turnover rate in your area? Do you know? If they know, then great. You write it down, and then you run the math of saying your expected transactions based on your turnover rate is your turnover rate plus 50% of the turnover rate. Right? So if they have a really high turnover rate of like 15%, then that 50% actually becomes higher. It's their expected transactions would be closer to, what is 15 divided by 2? 7.5, 22.5, right? So they'd actually have an even higher transaction volume for every contact in their list if their turnover rate in their area is drastically higher. But similarly, it also does the thing of, like, it bleeds authenticity. If they have a really low turnover rate, you're still able to factor the number to say, well, if you got an 8% turnover rate in your area, I mean, we're still looking at a 12% of your transaction percentage. Does the math work out at that rate? Anyway, that none of that may matter, but I at least wanted to get it in your ear. It might make a difference, but you're already this already makes sense for the sake of, you're right, it's directionally correct.
Yeah. And so this is the design from V0.
Right.
And so I'm wanting to pull it into Claude so I can finish it off, update this. And it's been a pain in the butt to get there, but I'm slowly getting there. This is what I'm working on. This is it locally. Oh, look, I think I finally got it. So I had to pull it into Cursor because V0, they really want you to deploy on their servers. And what finally solved it was I put it on Claude 3.7 with thinking mode, and because I was getting frustrated, it was not solving it. Like, I've just been talking and running into errors, and then I finally put the V0 folder here because we can't just download it because it's TypeScript and you got all this build stuff. And so I finally had it say, hey, look at all this, make it look the same. And so this is it actually now. So we almost have it. Looks like it just needs to be kind of centered here on the left. But it's pretty close now, which is great. So this is it live. I'll use ChatGPT to create some images for this.
Right.
And kind of cool. Looks a lot better than the current one.
What?
And then
what is the copy? What is the copy of this based off of? For sake of what have you found in terms of the marketing messaging that people are responding to?
Yeah. So this idea, this is the leads or liabilities.
Right.
That's all the pain. Solving digital amnesia is probably, that's, people really like that. I've got to set the baseline of why you don't need leads in real estate.
Right.
I don't.
This is geared toward lenders, or this is geared toward agents. This one's geared toward agents. Yeah. Agents. Okay. Perfect.
And because lenders don't work the sell side, right?
So some ideas that you could potentially test. Go back up to the very top. And this is just copy. So these would be easy tests to run. Instead of escape the lead trap, stop wasting money on leads. Do this instead.
Okay.
Do you? Yeah, like I'm trying to think, because I don't like looking at this as a real estate agent. I don't think they perceived yet themselves as being in the lead trap. Does that make sense? Like
so what I've realized, this is geared to people that have already bought into things. And I know it's a small list.
Okay.
But what I found is our best people already, they hear this and they're like, I've been looking for this my whole life. So I'm not trying to convert the unbelievers. I am preaching to the crowd.
Okay. So this is geared toward real estate agents that already love working their sphere, already love getting business from their sphere. They already hate the other process. Does that sound right? So when does somebody see this page?
It's all been when they're referred either from an agent or from another one of our clients, is when they'll see it. We've got quite a few clients now that are selling this to the people they know. And so we're getting quite a few referrals right now. And our current website is just needs a little bit of an update. And so this is the first option at an update.
Yeah, so the key thing to me is the right words for any of this are whatever they're already telling themselves, right? Like start with start with where they are currently and what they perceive themselves as struggling with currently, to then bring them into your solution, right? So meet them where they are, and even people who see this as a good fit, you'll just want to double check and test that. Is escape the lead trap the words that are in their mind already?
Right.
Because
so yeah, you're right. What I've been working, the big pain in the butt that I've had is that I don't have this working yet. Like when AI, So like having that kind of being able to update it easily doesn't
Right.
happen with V0. So the
Gotcha.
problem I'm trying to solve is um, how do I get it to a place where now I can make those updates? Like I'm
That makes
also
sense.
I'm probably going to make a lot of updates to this,
That makes
but
sense. That makes sense.
it's
So this so this is mostly for you just about the look and feel.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to launch it because my current website, if we look at it, uh, I've actually got one person. He's a luxury agent, super well known, and he said, "I am not going to send you any referrals until you fix your website."
Right, right,
And I don't blame him. That makes sense.
right.
So I'm very okay with getting this to a place where I can launch it.
That
And
makes sense.
so what's cool? I just asked Claude or Cursor AI to center this, and that worked. And then
Perfect.
so my next is, do you know about the scorecard app? Um,
No, not specifically.
it's a book. It's scorecard marketing. So my
Right.
plans to have a two-step scorecard um, where you know that whatever type of business they are, they fill out like a six question thing, and then if they're medium or high, I'll send them, and they want to apply, then I'll send them a more detailed like 30 step questionnaire.
Gotcha.
And so that's what this whole apply now is. I really like that. I wanted to do it forever. I mean, that's the realtor waiting list in action, right?
Right, right.
And it was kind of cool. The original um, design of this, if we look at it, I'm on version 24. If
Right.
we go down to like version 1, 12 days ago, trying to load it up.
Let's I am curious. Potentially a different way of thinking about this problem for you that gets you where you're looking to go.
Yeah,
What for you does feel easy to update, right? Like you've mentioned that the main thing that you're accomplishing here is you don't feel like you're good at design. So like that's where you need help. You need help with the design. But
yeah.
what for you, if you're like, hey, if I had it in this way, in this format, it would feel easy for me to update, where at least you have clarity on like what it's like to update something like that.
I mean, now it's good. So
No,
like
well,
so I need something to design it,
right,
and then I need to have the code that works on my computer. And so,
right,
I've got that now. I was looking at this right here, something that was recommended
right.
um, as something that works well. It's got different versions. Using like I wouldn't use React. I would use Vue.
Right.
But this happened. Like I heard about V0, and I was like, all right, let me try it.
Right.
And
The
so
the,
yeah,
the reason why I'm asking is like the way that I would this may or may not be useful for you, but it just in terms of the process for how I would think about I get my initial thing developed in this thing. The step that I might do differently than you is if I've got a working design, I might literally just use a tool that gets me a screenshot of that website, and then now I take that into like Google Gemini 2.5 at this point and say, here's the interface that I'm looking to design, build it using these tools, and give me the code base for it. Like that as opposed to, I don't even want it to have the context of the other code. I want it to literally just be like, I want this visual, you accomplish this visual through these other frameworks, these other things.
Right.
That might get you to that end result. You had mentioned that it was a little bit difficult. Yeah, I don't know. That's why I was asking. Does that make sense? Where it's like, if you know, hey, I know I like these tools. V0 doesn't build in these tools, doesn't give me these tools, but it does get you the, like, you can iterate with it to the design point, and then get the screenshots of the design, and then use something else to actually convert it into the actual code base that you want.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know if that's useful, but that's probably how I would think through it. I'd really mentally separate the design step from the code step.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And it that makes a ton of sense. I feel like this is good now.
Yeah, I think it looks good. How it works, features, testimonials, pricing. What's it say at the top right? The Get Ship Done logo is apply for exclusive access. Gotcha. Perfect.
It's like, I'm gonna remove the watch demo. I don't have that now. I'm gonna update the like, there's some things I don't like. Like, I don't like how much space there is between here.
Right.
And but overall, I mean, it looks a whole lot better.
It looks great.
To create some images here.
Right.
And this is based off the webinar me and you originally did.
Right. If you can, one of the things that I changed on that one, scroll up, visually, make the we do list really, really, really long.
Okay.
Because visually what you want to communicate is, you don't have to do much, and we do a ton for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would, but the way that you do it, I think like that looks good. But this is one of those areas I wouldn't want it balanced. I'd want it to feel like one of them is much bigger than the other.
Right. I like that.
And it might even work well. Scroll up. Spend 1 hour, do 30 minutes, do a video every. I might even pull the Get the Business and Life You Deserve out as a third point, and have it be present, but don't make it feel like it's a thing you have to do, right? Like visually,
right.
like maybe pull it out and have it be like a almost like a side note, like you're helping them see what comes next, but you're not. But like visually, it doesn't look like another task.
Yeah.
But then, and then that makes it so that they're only doing two things, right? And then on your end, when you make that longer, then it also helps. Anyway.
I like that.
30 minutes, $3 a day. Scroll up.
Oh.
100% automated. Yeah, I like that. Scroll down. See how your existing contacts transformed your sphere transfer. What is this?
I don't know. This is just a little cool animation they have. It's supposed to show a bunch of different nodes.
You know what? Like how I would describe visualizing that. Visualize your sphere's potential. What's a good example of this? Like what are some good visuals for that? Like what you do is your process keeps, You know what you could do through this? You could have two comparisons, right? Where it's like the usual way, and you have your sphere, and like what you're showing where a blue dot is somebody being activated, right?
Right.
And so you kind of show the typical way of like show like something coming up, like you want to show progression over time, where it's like manually having conversations, seeing somebody in person, trying to make phone calls, right? And you just show like as a percentage, like less of the blue dots are activated. But then you show like on the other end where it's like if this thing is like, if the time is a constant, then it's like one thing happens and then you see some of the blue dots activate, but then they start fading, right? Because they're forgetting you. But on this one, it's showing like new piece of content seen everywhere, new piece of content seen everywhere, new piece of content seen everywhere. And you still show you're not activating everybody in the list, but like a much bigger portion. And as they're fading, they're getting reactivated and blue more frequently. I bet AI could generate something like that for you. That's cool. But anyway, that's an idea.
Would be really cool.
This one's clear.
Here's some testimonials.
Quality over quantity, the right fit matters, predictable capacity planning, proven success formula. One, right fit matters. When you work on the copy for this, have it really emphasize and say, word this in a way that matters to them. Because what I'm reading there sounds more like this is why it matters to us, and it's not communicating. It's not communicating why it helps them. And once you're done with that, scroll down and I'll look at the next stuff. Most successful service go back up. What was that one? The most successful service aren't desperately chasing. They have people waiting to work with them. Okay. That's like that's tying the points together of the one above, right? Information. Your phone rings, time freedom returns, smoother transactions, predictable business, marketing stress gone. I would move that drastically higher up the page, in my opinion. Is there a reason? Is there a reason why you have it there?
Just through my different versions, that was just one.
Gotcha.
Where would you put it? Like,
I would put it like near the top, maybe like second.
So
like
maybe this first.
Maybe the painful truth about traditional lead generation. Yeah, like I would put it as the counterpoint to that one. Does that make sense? So it's like here's the pain, here's the solution, and then the math is more like I'm making the solution real. Does that make sense? Like I'm making this authentic and believable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That does.
Scroll back down, back down to it. Come unforgettable, your phone rings, time freedom returns, smoother transactions, predictable business, marketing stress gone. Yeah. Like honestly, out of anything so far on the page, the copy here to me is golden. And in terms of like what I think people are really looking for, this is speaking to it in the way that I think will really hit with people. So like that copy, even the like the main heading area, if you could reframe it a bit to speak to some of those ideas in that really clear way, where it's like these are These are the problems that people are speaking in their head. These are the desires that people are looking for. How do I most clearly communicate that in my my hero heading and sentence and all that? Anyway, I think that would be good. All right, scroll back down.
Yeah, let me just.
Is this helpful, by the way? I don't know. I can't help it.
This is, yeah.
You didn't ask for feedback. I should have asked if you wanted it.
That is great. This is really good.
All right, scroll. Yeah. All right.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I've got that there.
And we got the calculator back again.
No.
Okay.
I moved that like you said. So
okay. So that's already integrated. Okay. So go back up then. Not all the way. Okay. Go down to Scroll from there, but scroll a little bit slowly. Perfect. Transformation. Yep. Keep going. Okay. And then the math. Okay. Then calculator. Okay. What you do. Okay. 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 Inner circle access. Join the elite 1%. Never have to worry. Application fee. Done fee database. Done fee personal branding. I directly to Facebook. Trickling within new members each month. For you. I would potentially have some copy that, like, you might even need a row for this, and you might add like an asterisk next to the 0, but like you probably want to deal with, why is this so cheap, right? Like why don't we charge a lot for this? And like what you speak to is you basically say, we fully believe in you validating that this is a good fit before we really charge you anything. So we have we have, our model is like the car dealership test drive, or it's like the ideal test drive where they let you have the car for 3 months before you actually have to decide if you even want to buy it, right? You get to see if it's a good fit for you. Anyway, you might speak to that. You might say, because we've found that we would much rather take zero money from people who aren't a good fit than take money from people who aren't a good fit and have to say goodbye, right? Like, I don't know, something like that. But you probably want to deal with that somewhere, because I feel like somebody's going to hit this section and it feels too good to be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a couple different versions, and so I just kind of put them all together because they look nice.
30 transactions are happening this year, and every 2 if these transactions, whether you'll be chosen when they do. Successful agents are. This is good copy, by the way. Waiting to work with them. 30 transactions happening. It feels a little bit redundant having the thing on the left and the right.
Yeah.
For that row, I would probably have like keep the thing on the right, and on the left I would probably say something like I would probably have a simplified sentence, maybe that calls out the like, how would I do that? Honestly, what I would probably do, I'd probably get rid of the thing on the right there currently, integrate whatever information you need to into the left, and put an image on the right that feels like it represents the content. Like you probably don't want people's eyes going from left to right and potentially missing the button. You almost want them just going top down, but then the visual helps them connect it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's probably how I'd do it.
Yeah.
The other thing that you might need to add in is it's missing a sentence at the end before the button to say, here's the point, so do this now. You have that sentence in the other one, the apply to join the elite group of agents who are chosen. Like that sentence, pull it over to the left at the bottom after the bullet points. Does that make sense?
So something there.
I would have the bullet points, but then I would have a sentence after the bullet points that isn't a bullet point. That's just a clear. Here's the thing with the implication. So based on that implication, here's what to do next. And I would specifically have it as a sentence rather than just the button. So I would have the sentence that essentially gives the same call to action as what the button says. To drive them that mentally they clearly see, here's this thing, here's the implication, so here's what you need to do.
Gotcha.
And then button is just like, yes, I want to do that. Click. Next step.
Yeah, I bought a landing page designer course the other day. My goal is to build those transcripts into kind of a little GPT to get improvements on that.
Right.
Because that is, I mean, this is a weakness, but it's kind of cool that I've been able to get this far with it.
Yeah, and I mean, what's interesting is my process has always been this at this point. This might be worthwhile for you to think about as well, is the thing that matters first and foremost is, am I conveying the right information that somebody needs to logically move forward? And where is the right place and the right sequence and the right way to convey that information? And to me, the design portion of it, I would do that after. I feel like even without the design, the information does a good job of pulling somebody through a process. And then the design is just the way that you make it easier to digest, easier to understand, easier to stay interested, right? And so like my typical workflow, even when I'm designing like a landing page or something, I get it all done in Markdown first, and get every single thing that I want on a page. And this is literally how I work with clients too, right? Like we get everything written out where we're like, this is compelling. Now let's figure out the right coat of paint to put on it to make it look great too. And I think that potentially goes to your advantage if you think about it that way, because you're like you know how to think about those things and create that information. So like you could, if you say like, hey, I want to cover these ideas, these are the aspects of a landing page that we need to hit. Like we need to state the problem. We need to like you flow through and you get those worded the right way that hits with your market. And then you say, great, we've got this content, remake this as a compelling, modern landing page for a software company. And not that you need to do it with this part right here, but I think typically you end up with a better result when you start with subject matter first and then go to design. It's a lot easier to be able to figure out the right way to display information than it is to say, I like this way of displaying things. Now what information do I put in it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's at least what I found. It's kind of like a similar thing to the problem of, I've got a product, now who do I sell it to? Rather than starting with, I know whose problems I'm solving, now what's the product that they need? Right?
Right.
I feel like design is often that way, where you get the best results when you hold true to the heart of the content first and get the content dialed, and then design is the how do we best amplify the qualities of this content to help convey this message too. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that's part of a superpower of yours, though. Like, I hear the words you're saying,
Right.
and like, I can see, like, when I see a good design, I'm like, oh man, that's really cool.
Right.
Hey, head on upstairs, okay, bud? Yeah, can you tell me later? Because you're like bouncing the camera. Yeah. So can you tell me after this call, maybe? I'm on a live call with Zach right now.
How's it going?
You kind of live something.
Live Charlie and Zach's Facebook and YouTube feeds.
That's right. You're in my ear, so he can't hear you.
Right.
But I'm excited. I finally got this moved over to my local host,
Right.
so I can make changes. I do like your idea of taking the screenshot,
Right.
and saying, "Hey, build this out in something else."
Well, and real quick. So part of, like you said, you hear the words that I'm saying. What for you about the process of saying, I'm gonna put together a landing page. Let's dial in the content. What does it need to say? What are the sections of the page, just from a content point of view? And then taking that into AI and saying, build out a landing page that leverages this content, so that I'm putting the good coat of paint on it. Is there a disconnect on that?
I mean, so I did that.
Okay.
And like, I started out and said, "Hey, here's what referrals why." So actually, to specifically show you, I said, "Hey, create a landing page."
Stage.
Let's see if I can share it.
No, you're good. It is sharing. It just wasn't sharing in StreamYard.
Oh, gotcha. So I said, first, like, this was just a test like last 2 weekends ago. Like, will it work? And I was like, oh, this actually turned out eventually pretty decent. So I said, ask me any questions you need. So it said, what's the name? What does it solve? Target audience. And it's not showing here. I actually, somewhere I offered, like, I created a list of, hey, here's everything that it does. And so it was like, it would be better for me if I had, that's why I bought that landing page course.
Right.
If I had, hey, here's my exact template. Also, I've got, Claude has a lot of my stuff, and so I just have it answer most of the questions for me, and then I refine from there.
That makes
like taking something and creating a design, and like just putting it together visually. I'm just much better at blabbing. Then people are like, "You're smart. I trust you."
So a process that you could potentially try that might solve some of this for you in the future as well. If you don't have a template, you want to know my biggest secret for coming up with good designs?
Yeah.
I go and I find somebody who's doing it well, and I just swap out the content with content that makes sense for what I'm doing. Right? So you could do that with AI, where you could say, go to this page and remake this page, but for this offer. And it will often do a pretty good job of kind of giving you those rough ideas. And if you find a few different examples that you like, where you're like, I really like the way that they did this, you might do the same thing where it's like, hey, add a row in here that looks like this, right? But changes it to be this idea. That's most of what I do with design, is I go and I find designs that I like, and I say, I really like this portion, take this and adapt it based on our subject, based on our content.
Gotcha.
And so that might help you. So even if you don't have a template, like, AI is able to read between the lines on a lot of things, at least decently, where you could use any website as a template, right? So if you're like, this is a company that I really, really would really like to evoke. What are they doing well? And sometimes, like, this is something else that's useful to know too. You might look at websites in two ways. You might look at a website and you say, I really like just the look and feel of this, right? Like, I like the branding. I like the way that it looks. I like the aesthetic that they pulled off. But you may hate the content, right? And so then other times I'm like, I don't really like this aesthetic, but structurally, like, what they're doing in terms of the, like, if you imagine the website more as a wireframe rather than as like the end product, like, I'll often do that where I'll remix things and say, I really want this aesthetic, but I want to use this like a wireframe where the layout works this way. And then I remix things that way. So that step for me is typically research of, like, who are products or who are people that are doing something similar, and I look through enough options until I find one that's like, yes, I like this, and then start reforming it in my own image from there. And you can use AI to do that. None of this may be a good fit for you. I'm at least trying to convey, like, what is my process.
How you do it.
Yeah, because it really is. It's mostly a process, and it's something that you could do. Over time, you do start to develop, like, your own taste, and you might be able to, like, get to the end result quicker, where you're like, this is the way that I like to lay out information like this. So I don't need to go and find an example. I just know to do it this way, right?
Right.
But starting out, it might literally just be, I feel like this is really clear. I feel like this conveys this idea really well. That sort of idea. And I think if you could mentally, in your mind, if you could separate the idea of, what do I like about this for sake of, I just like this style, versus what do I like about this for sake of, I think something about this substantively matters, right? And if you could separate those in your mind and communicate it back to AI in that way, you'll probably be able to get the results that you're looking for. Because there have been many websites that I've gone to that are like, I don't like this style, but it's laid out really clear. It makes a lot of sense, and, like, so I want it for a wireframe, but I don't want it for the design. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And knowing that you're looking for those two separate things might be part of how you unlock this for yourself.
Yeah. You got wireframe, and then you got the content.
Well, yeah. So
the ideas.
Yeah, wireframes, like, layout and how things are structured.
Right.
And then aesthetic is more like the coat of paint, right? Like like right now there's a design trend of dark websites with gradients on them, often from blue to pink or maybe blue to green. And it's got a very high-tech feel right now. And like I saw it all over the place in the crypto space especially, but then AI started becoming a similar thing for that design. And so like you could say, man, I really like this because it's what the market seems to be doing. But like this old website about this thing really conveys these ideas well. I'd love to take this layout but apply this aesthetic to it. Anyway, and it fits really well with your idea sex sort of idea of how you think about it, right? Where it's like I'm taking this part of this component and this part and bringing them together, and it creates something new and magical in the process. But anyway,
that made a lot of sense. You just had to say idea sex. Now I got it.
Perfect.
You had me at idea.
Indeed. But cool. Oh, all right. Let me present real quick. I got results back from the last thing that I was doing. Let's see. I haven't looked at the results, but all right. Strategic Growth Exchange, where SaaS founders share their expertise with peers at similar growth stages through professionally produced expert content. Platform to strategic peers who understand this value opportunity, refining messaging, peer-to-peer content that establishes your code. Yeah, I think the third one is not as powerful. Why this works: natural desire for peer recognition, authority building, create content that serves both your audience and gives them a SaaS growth catalyst, an interview. Who's that? Helps. Building strategic fellowship access. All right, so difference was, are we creating content for an audience of other SaaS people? Or are we audience for that SaaS founders target audience, whoever they may be? All right, perfect.
My kids are extra crazy the last few days.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. That is a good question.
As the weather changed out there, is it getting warmer? I feel like sometimes go ahead.
That could be what it is. Yeah.
I feel like sometimes things like that make a difference, where it's like if they've been cooped up for a bit, or there's more opportunity to go outside, or I don't know. It could be all sorts of things sometimes, but okay. So my goals were to kind of define the positioning around the show. I think this becomes the positioning of what I'm doing right now. I might like I'm going to keep it in my mind that I want to be open to that I might pivot to this. I'm going to be able to measure that. So this is part of my planning process. I always look for, what is my goal? My goal is to have the conversation. My goal is, if I can, to have conversations with my ideal prospects or connectors to my ideal prospects, or ideally, the perfect is always people who are both. They are both an ideal prospect and they are connectors, right?
Yeah.
So that's the core primary goal. If I'm doing that, either of these is successful. Secondary goals are I produce content that helps me nurture my list. That's a secondary goal. Another secondary goal that option 2 does, but option 2 doesn't do so well, is that this act of working with somebody is in itself a mini sales call, showing and demonstrating my process, right?
Yeah.
The first one kind of does that. There's probably a way where I could get both out of the first one, but anyway, okay. So that covers that. That's accomplished. For how I think through. All right. Based on option number 1, note that I will be doing solo episodes as well. Help me write a simple description for my AMP Intel podcast / show that's based on these ideas that I'd be inviting people to. And web search is on. Perfect. That sounds good. Okay, I've added that as context. help me think. Help me think through this. So, under the idea of kind of a tier list of who potential fits are for this, what would you say? How would you think about that for my show? For my, like, who I target? What
Yeah.
comes for you?
So I feel like this is funny. This is just the difference between your completeness and my version. And kind of the SaaS Academy, you know, they said just make it simple. Like for me, for you, I would just think of S and A tier, and like just ignore everybody else. But I mean, yeah, I guess S tier would be SaaS growth founders that also serve SaaS growth founders, and then A tier would be SaaS growth founders.
Yeah, SaaS growth founders who also serve SaaS growth founders would be S tier, and then SaaS growth founders would be A tier. Here's the reason why I typically why I've thought about it this way. Being able to say and see where there's some level of opportunity outside of the S and A. S and A is who you target, right? Like really you're targeting S, but you sort of acknowledge that you may run out of opportunities if you only go after S. So you need to have A's in there as well. That's where you typically be able to make up the other stuff. But think of like the B, C, D, and F as the momentum of this also creates inbound opportunities that you need to sort through, right? And so like for you, there are probably real estate transactions that come up as opportunities that you just won't do, that aren't a good fit, even though does that make sense? And
yeah,
and having some level of definition around that, I have found for me, and thinking through it in advance gives me some clarity, because like I have seen some of these things come through where somebody gives me a referral and I need to think through, do I see a path where this makes sense to do in a way that like still moves me forward on my goals in a meaningful way, or not? Because if not, then I need to do something else with it. I need to not offer them this opportunity. I need to do something different, right?
Yeah.
And so thinking through it's less about who I target, and it's a little bit more about like, when being presented with the opportunities, what do I do with them, and having clarity on it. So you're right. S and A are who you target. B, like a B tier for me on something like this might be really a B tier is they are neither a good fit for my products directly. Their audience isn't typically the people that I'm serving, but they have something that is uniquely valuable that I think would be compelling to my audience, right? So like as a for instance, who qualified for that for me in the real estate growth hackers world was, if they are a real estate agent who is incredibly successful, but they don't have an audience, they don't have people, it's still potentially worthwhile for me to have them on, because what they know, my audience would find valuable. Does that make sense? And so if the opportunity comes inbound, which some of those have, then like there's opportunity for me. I just have to know how to think about it. So that's kind of how I think about the B tier. The C, and honestly, I don't know if I really have a C, D, or F on this. When I've done this before, it was I had my bullseye, my level 1, level 2, and level 3, and then everybody else was you're fired. Right? So, and that's kind of the same case on this. I think other aspects that potentially play into this, I think people get a little bit of extra points mentally if it's in a bucket where I have clear success already or a clear network already. Maybe that's part of what makes somebody more in that S tier, where like my A tier, maybe my tiers drop down just a little bit, right? Where A tier is what I currently have as S tier of, you know, growth founders whose audience is growth founders. Like the caliber above that is growth founders whose audiences are growth founders who are in an industry that I already have proven success with, right? Like and expertise that I can capitalize on, because that's even more powerful, just for sake of my credibility and how I can offer and how easily I can help and all of that. And so so I think my tiers would be that. So it's like the S tier. The S tier includes some level of alignment fit already of you know, past history. A tier is really they're still great, but maybe there's less alignment fit right now, so I have to learn a little bit more about the market. I'm not going to be able to get in and go as quick. And then so and then B becomes people who are either good connectors or good clients, but not both. And actually, I don't know, what would you, if you're presented in this strategy, what would be a good example of this? Who's somebody that you've come across that's a good, like that their market is a good fit for you, their audience is a good fit for you, but they are not a good fit for you? Have you come across that at all?
I mean, I guess it would be someone that did something similar, right? You know, Adam Scheibel, you know, he might be one in that he's really good at like creating his own content, and he's got like a specific way that he likes to distribute it.
Okay.
Like most of his clients hate being on social media, but he's got a system where he's okay with it, you know?
Right. That makes sense. Okay. So which would you rather have as a guest on your show? Somebody like Adam, or somebody who is like a loan officer that gets the program and is looking to leverage it to recruit real estate agents? Like,
I'd much rather have an Adam. I'd much rather have someone that could send me multiple clients.
Perfect.
Strategic partner.
Perfect. Okay, so and that was my gut on this too. So so I think my S tier is expertise alignment. Expertise alignment plus strategic partner plus good product fit as well, right? Like they're all of them. It's the Michael Scott win scenario. The A tier is that same thing, but they don't have expertise alignment, right? They're in a zone that I don't have familiarity with. B tier will be my connectors, and C tier will be they themselves would be a good client but don't have an audience of my people.
Gotcha.
And then I don't think we need D and F. I think it's essentially S, A, B, C, and then F. F is just everybody else, right? I don't think there's a D on this. I mean, I guess the D on this would be they have expertise that would be relevant for my audience, but they're neither a good fit nor have an audience of good fit. And it's mostly, those are never people that I seek out, but they are people that, if they happen to come and the offer is compelling enough, there's at least a way of thinking about that value, right? And if it's valuable enough, depending on the other opportunities I have at my table, that might be worthwhile. F is somebody else, right? There's no alignment. It's not a message that I think my people would care about. They're not a potential fit, right? They may just see me as they're trying to get on, but anyway, that all make sense?
Yeah,
All right,
that makes
stop
sense.
recording. Is that like, I don't know, is thinking about that, is that useful or helpful for you at all? It may not.
Yeah, I think one of the things is I am much more comfortable just responding on the fly. Like you have to think out everything
Right.
ahead of time.
Yeah, and I think it's not like, what's interesting is I don't know if that by itself is a superpower or like if it's even a good thing by itself, but what it does is when I get to the situations where I don't know how to describe this, I am adaptable because I've done a lot of this thinking in advance.
Yeah.
But like if I'm going to build out a system, it's really hard for me to get into action on something unless I've thought it through.
Yeah.
Or at least it's hard for me to get into action without getting distracted until I've thought it through.
Yeah.
I have expertise alignment. Make the naming of these more clear to clearly show the differentiation.
It's amazing how every single AI now shows their thinking when just 60 days ago, that was nowhere to be found.
Right. Right. Honestly, I'm somewhat surprised that it took as long as it did for it to happen, because it was pretty clear pretty quick that telling AI to think step by step like drastically improved its results. And so most of these, it's like it was an added step of baking it into the model, that part of the way that it works is to think before it provides the actual output.
Right.
But I don't know. It's like I mean, the think step by step, literally, that's been around as a thing that's mattered for like since I don't remember when I first heard of it, but it's probably been 2 years.
Right.
And so like it's only within like I think this last year that it was fully sort of bought into as a as like a kind of a standard part of the model. Actually, what's interesting is that what just dropped with Llama 4, they don't have thinking in it yet. And so all the results that they're getting are without thinking, which means when they add the thinking, it's going to get even better.
Which model?
Llama 4.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So like that's exciting. It's exciting that, you know, just the base model itself is already doing great, and it's open source and will get even better as it gets improved in the next iteration. Okay, I accomplished the key things that I needed, and at least I think so. So what this does for me is now I have the foundational elements of being able to build out the next steps, of being able to say, I know what I'm offering at a basic level. Like I know the core pitch. I know who I need to reach out to. I don't have documented where to find them. So I'll need to think through that. I have ideas on some of these. It's not like I'm at a complete loss, but I don't have it defined. Does that make sense? I don't have my strategies in place to say, here's where we go when we find these people. So I have those things. Now, armed with that, I can build out an approach that lets me say, here's what our outreach process looks like. Here's here's what I'm inviting people to. Here's how I'm actually running this process, so that I am getting people on the phone ready to have these conversations, right? And so all of those are just the different strategies to say, I've got this thing of value. Now, how do I get it out there? And some things that I can already envision. This is going to look like, I can automate LinkedIn outreach for this. So that's one that I could do. I can't automate it, but I can put together a strategy for Facebook as well. At least I don't know how to automate it. The Facebook stuff I found works best when it's, whatchamacallit, from my personal profile, and most of the tools that automate some of these things and messaging and whatnot don't allow you to do your personal profile. I could potentially do it the other way around, where I run paid ads and use like ManyChat or something like that to have more of an inbound flow. But yeah, there's also like how this impacts my like my Facebook strategy, who I'm connecting with and how I'm connecting. That's actually really worthwhile for me to think about, because that's something I can put in place that I just need to update Mural on, like who we're targeting, who's a good fit. And so Mural, are you still here? Are you still on this? And I see you in there, but are you, sometimes you stepped away to the restroom or something? She is. I see a comment or a chat. Awesome. So you and I, Meryl, we probably need to talk. Add this to lean time as one of the things that we need to discuss. This new tier list makes a difference for who we consider a good outbound connection. Charlie, on Facebook, how likely do you think it is that I readily can see if somebody's a good fit, and how do I recognize them on Facebook?
They're a founder that serves. They're a SaaS founder that serves SaaS founders.
Yeah, let me look at somebody. Hopefully this isn't a problem for me to do this publicly. Wait, this one. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so somebody that I know feels like a good option in terms of being the right fit. What does Dustin's page look like? Founder. Okay, so founder is typically in the title. I think yeah, so I mean, Dustin's an example of a good fit. You would have an audience and connections with people that potentially need what I do. He potentially needs what I do. So I think the key thing, so Miro, like looking at this for sake of like, I'll share back out that tier list. So what we want to do is we want to stop adding people. We want to stop adding people who are real estate. We want to stop adding people who are agencies. And we really want to target on people who have the title founder in their job description. A way that we could potentially find more of these people. Let's look at this real quick. If I go here, I wonder. I don't know. Help me see. Have I not added him as friend already? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't send me a friend request. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Who can you think of somebody that would be a good option to like that you know is a good option for me to look up?
Costas would have been a good one.
I wonder what shows up on his page. Yeah, he doesn't show much on his Facebook. So like we would just have to know that about Costas, right?
You're right.
Maybe that's part of it. Maybe I find people through LinkedIn. Like, so here's part of my thinking on this end. Like on the Facebook connections. Why isn't it?
Yeah.
There it goes. On the Facebook connections, what I found is that Facebook starts recommending people that are similar to who's already in your network.
Yeah.
You know, based on mutual connections, and so founders would often be connected to other founders. So part of what I have Meryl do is she looks at who Facebook is recommending to us, and then makes the determination of if we send a connection request based on criteria I've given her in the past for who's a good fit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think. And maybe Costa's profile, when he was a good fit for this, maybe it would have looked different at the time. I don't know. He also just may not have used it that way. That's part of where LinkedIn potentially helps on this strategy too. So it could be connecting to people that we know from another reason is other people that we know are a good fit that way. But yeah. That makes sense?
Yeah. That makes sense. Interesting to think about.
I could potentially do a search for founder and people and search for friends of friends.
All right, I've got some real estate calls happening. I better get going.
All right. Sounds good. Oh, I think my thing just crashed.
I apologize.
Oh, there we go. No, you're good. My thing crashed out. I think that's a good spot for us to end.
We got done. So this is the first day where we try to just work on our own individual things and see what happens.
Yeah. Did you get something done that you might not have gotten done if we weren't taking the time to do this? Or did it feel better, easier, or I don't know?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it otherwise. Got some good tips and hints, and otherwise I probably had a couple calls that would have completely distracted me. But this way, I came back and kept rolling.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for us to keep trying this way and see what that looks like. No good?
See what happens. I like it. All right. Bye.
All right. Well, that's it for today.